Have you ever wondered what it's like to work in law enforcement? Here on Behind the Star, we share stories about the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Central Florida's largest law enforcement agency. From forensics to dispatch to the deputies on patrol, we'll talk to the brave men and women who protect our community. This is Behind the Star, the official podcast of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to Behind the Star, the official podcast of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. My name is Jon Busdeker, your host here at Behind the Star. And if you listened to our last episode, we sort of flipped the script a little bit. I was interviewed by PIO Christian Marrero. I had a good time. Thanks for listening to that one. If you want to know kind of how I ended up at the Sheriff's Office, go back one episode. You can listen to that one. If you don't care, you're in the right spot because we're somewhere else this week. We're actually on location. I'm out at the Sector 2 substation, which is kind of on the east side of Orange County, and I'm here with a special unit, which is really interesting to me because I grew up in the Midwest around some farms and agricultural spots, and so we're actually here with the Agricultural Crimes Unit, and I'm here with Sergeant Al Giardiello and Master Deputy Drew Risser. Welcome to Behind the Star.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys for having me out here. I say we're in the Agricultural Crimes Unit. We're not exactly in the rural setting right now, but that's kind of what the Ag Unit, I'm going to say the Ag Unit for short, probably for this whole podcast. But why don't we start off with you, Al? Tell me, what exactly is the Agricultural Crimes Unit?
Well, basically, we handle everything involving animals. We conduct animal cruelty investigations. We actually do all of the animal cruelty investigations for the Orange County Animal Services. They don't have the legal ability to file charges, so we are basically the enforcement side of what Orange County Animal Services does, involving domestic animals on their part, but we do a lot of livestock type animals, cows, horses, pigs, cows, goats. What other kind of animals am I missing, Drew?
Emus, ostrich, anything.
I didn't even know we had. We'll get to that in a second. So maybe Drew, explain the difference. What's the difference? And once again, not everybody grew up on a farm. What's the difference between a domestic animal and livestock?
Well, domestic animal is something you'd have in your house.
Okay.
Like cat, dog, ferret, whatever. Farm animal is usually a hoofed animal: goat, cow, pig, horse. I mean, something you're not going to have inside your house.
That's true. Well, you probably shouldn't have it inside your house. And so Sergeant Giardiello, how does this work? I mean, do you get a phone call from Orange County Animal Services and then you head out, or how do you know there are crimes against animals, I guess?
Well, basically, when the citizens call 911 to report maybe a cow that looks skinny or a horse that looks skinny or something that doesn't look right, it comes into our comm center. And if a deputy is available, one of my deputies available at the time, they'll go out there and investigate it. If not, one of the patrol deputies will go out there and they'll call us. They'll notify us, hey, this is what I have. I'm not really familiar with this animal. Can one of you guys come out and look at it? One of the guys will come out and look at it and determine. We actually get a lot of phone calls where people are in a panic because a horse is laying down. People don't realize that horses lay down to sleep sometimes.
Oh, yeah, they get tired.
They get tired. They want to lay down. But, for people who don't have a lot of contact with those type of animals, it concerns them. And I always tell people, call us. We'll come out and look at it. It doesn't cost anything. We'll go out and look at this animal. And sometimes you go out there and you clap your hands and the horse jumps right up because he was just sleeping. He was taking a little sleep, nap.
You're like a horse whisperer.
Like a horse whisperer, kind of, yes. But basically, we work in conjunction with Animal Services. They'll call us if they go somewhere and they find something that looks out of their realm because they deal again with domestic animals. So they'll look and they'll say, hey, I saw this horse when I was out there. I was out there for the dog and something doesn't look right. And we'll go out there with them. And we'll start an investigation that needs to happen. But all the guys we're all investigators. We conduct follow-up investigations that come from patrol, that come from Animal Services. But all of our stuff is involving animals. We also do some environmental crimes, trash dumping, stuff like that. It involves the outdoors. People dump stuff they shouldn't dump. And that falls on us too.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll get to that too. So how many people work here in the Ag Unit?
There's a corporal and sergeant and 4 deputies.
Okay. So 7, 8?
6.
6. All right. That's why I'm doing a podcast. I'm not a mathematician over here. So Drew, how did you end up here in the ag unit?
Well, I grew up on a ranch here in Apopka, and it's always been my dream. So it's the whole reason I joined the sheriff's office was to come to the ag unit.
How long have you worked at the sheriff's office, and did you start here in the ag unit?
No, I've been here for 24 years, and it took me 18 to get here.
Oh, all right. All right. So you said you grew up on a ranch. I mean, well, a horse ranch or
horse and cattle ranch. Yes.
All right. So how long have you been here? How long have you been at the ag unit?
4 years.
4 years. Oh,
came
all right.
in 2016. So 4 years.
So tell me, I mean, what's your typical day like, Drew?
I go out and I patrol the ranch lands, meet with the ranchers and the farmers, and I patrol the orange groves. And if I have cases to work, I go work my cases and do follow-ups and just go out and patrol the groves and ranch land.
So we've talked about this before. I mean, Orange County is huge. Orange County is 900 and some square miles. Where are the ranch lands? Where are the rural lands? Where do you typically patrol?
Well, mine are, I patrol the west side of the county, so mine are mainly over off of like Avalon Road. There's my majority of them. And then, you get spots where somebody's got 5 or 10 acres and there's 3 or 4 horses or a couple cows on there. It's, we make contact with them. We keep an animal map, so we jot down their information and put it on this map. So if we have a hurricane, the animals will get out. We can go to the map and figure out who owns the livestock, and we just patrol all around the whole county. So
there's an animal map? Tell me about that, Sergeant.
Yes. Well, we have a map that's available to the 6 of us. And basically, we document what type of animal and who owns the animal, what location. I've gotten woken up at 3 in the morning from patrol or from Florida Highway Patrol because of an accident. And now there's 3 or 4 cows walking around the road. It makes it easier. I can look at my map and see who owns those cows or what horse in the area and call them and tell them, hey, the horse is out or the cows are out because of an accident. Can you go out and get your animals? And they'll go out and they'll get their animals. It just helps us to figure out where stuff is when stuff comes up.
So how did you end up here, Sergeant? How did you end up in the ag unit?
Well, it's always been. I grew up just outside of New York City.
Very, very urban there.
Yes, quite urban. There were like 4 trees on my block, but it's just something that working here over the years is just always interested me. It's something different. Animals can't call 911 and report when people do things to them or stuff happens to them. And I always found it interesting to be able to talk for those animals and figure out, what's going on with them or people are mistreating them. Or a lot of times we find that it's not mistreatment so much as miseducation.
Okay.
A bigger part of our job is to educate people. Horses are very
expensive.
They're very expensive to maintain, but they don't realize when somebody comes and says, hey, I'll give you this horse for $50 or I have these 2 horses you can have for free, that it's probably going to cost them around $1,200 a month for the farrier for their feed or the live animal veterinarian to come out and see them. And that's basically what happens is they get in over their heads.
Yeah.
So a big part of our job is education. Because we'll get a call and we'll go out and we'll talk to them, explain to them, hey, this is what you need to do. We don't give them specific information on feed because that's up to a veterinarian to do because every animal is different. Every animal has special needs or likes something more than something else. And so we try, our very first thing to do is to go out and educate people. Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, we determine that what they're doing is cruelty. Animal cruelty can either be a felony or a misdemeanor in the state of Florida. Unfortunately, a lot of what we find are felony charges. People mistreating dogs or a lot of times we get horses that people don't know and the horse is just ridiculously skinny to a point where any reasonable adult would have looked at that horse and said, there's something wrong.
How do you determine animal cruelty? Like how do you figure that? Is there a line for that or is it just sort of in your opinion?
Florida State Statute 828.12 basically lays out what animal cruelty is. And that's what we go off of. We work with the state attorney's office has 1 or 2 people that they do all the animal cruelty charges that we would prosecute. And what we do is before we throw any charges to the state for deferment of prosecution or decision on prosecution, excuse me, we get with them and we figure out where that line is, where that threshold is between felony and misdemeanor. And they'll tell us, because basically I can present the case to them. They have to go into court and in front of a judge, in front of the jury, and basically they have to charge that person and make the charges be able to stick to get a conviction on a case. So we rely heavily on the state attorney's office to guide us. Hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But basically, by the time that we have gotten to that point where it would go before, we would have the state involved for a necropsy on the animal, which is basically a autopsy, which we would do for humans for an animal.
Mm-hmm.
So we would send the animal off to the state lab in Kissimmee, and they do toxicology. They'll do a full examination on it. And basically, that's how we figure out where this charge is. Just like human charges for killing a human being, we can't do charges until the doctor says, hey, this is what the cause of death was.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's basically what we do. We rely on animal services and the state lab to provide us with that evidence that we need to go ahead and press to send charges to the state attorney's office for prosecution.
So, Drew, can you explain to me kind of how an investigation would work? And so, let's say a call comes in and you get sent out to a farm somewhere. Let's say it's a horse or a cow or whatever animal. I mean, when you get there, I mean, what are sort of the steps? You get there. I assume you make contact or try to make contact with the owner, and then where does it go from there? Do you start interviewing neighbors, or do you start taking pictures? I mean, what's an investigation?
We take a lot of photographs. You know, I try to make contact with the owners. First, and then I go check out the animals itself. So the difference between large livestock and domestic animals is a skinny horse or a skinny cow can live a lot longer or do better than a skinny dog or a skinny cat.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on the episode of the horse or the cow, I mean, if it's something that if I don't take this animal with me today, this horse is going to die.
Yeah.
Then I'll get with the owner and be like, you know, I'll check their feed barn. What are you feeding this horse? What are you feeding this cow? You know, and then it'd be like, well, we're feeding them this. I'm like, well, you know, really shouldn't be doing that. I'm not going to tell you what to feed your horse, but get with your veterinarian. But I'll try, like he said, we'll try to educate the owners on what they should be doing. They should be getting fed, you know, 1,000-pound horse is going to eat 20 pounds of food a day. If they're feeding you know, a pound of food a day, that's not cutting it. So
No.
we'll educate them. So I'll be like, okay, I'm going to come back in a month and check on your horse. If the horse hasn't gained any weight or if it's still in the same shape, then I'm starting to look at impounding the horse or filing charges on the owner.
Are the owners typically surprised when you show up, or are they like, all right, I haven't been treating this animal properly? Or I mean, what's usually the reaction when you show up and you say, I think you're mistreating this animal?
Well, usually when I go there, it's usually, you know, I just got this horse. I really don't know anything about animals, you know. So again, the education comes into play. But if somebody's got like a nice barn, you really don't have to worry about it because they know what they're doing.
Uh-huh.
So.
Okay, so it's usually people that are maybe new to owning livestock. But what about with domestic animals? I mean, I feel like most people understand how to take care of a dog and a cat, but maybe not. I mean, you'd think so, I guess. But I mean, is it the same way? They just don't understand that you need to feed it a certain amount?
I think so, yeah. But we get a domestic animal, and it's kind of like you get, you know, a little puppy, and you don't think this little 3-pound puppy is going to grow up to be a 100-pound dog, and it's like they want to get rid of the dog, or they just don't know how to take care of it. So
okay, so when you're out, I want to go back to the patrolling. So when you're patrolling, what are you looking for then? Are you just sort of driving around, making sure things are okay with the animals in the area?
Yeah, I check the animals. You know, we go to the cow pastures or whatever. You know, I'm looking over the herd of the cattle, and you know, I check fences for the farmers, and you know, sometimes cows get out, and you know, I'll cut the fence or open the gates. You know, we have all the combination, the keys, all their locks, and you know, I'll get them put back in if something had happened, and you know, I'll call the owner and say, hey, you know, put your cow back in, or hey, this is going on at your property.
So Sergeant, the deputies that work in this unit, are they pretty well known in the farming and rural parts of Orange County because they're constantly out there?
They have contacts with some of these folks that run these large properties because they go out there and meet with them all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, I have somebody like Drew who grew up on a farm in Apopka. He knows most of the people in Apopka that own these areas, own these farms, own these orange groves, and it's the right tool for the right job. Somebody like Drew, who knows all these people, if we have a question or an issue, he can call them. He knows them. I have guys on the east side that are friends and know the ranch owners, the landowners on the east side of Orange County who do the same thing. They've been doing it so long. I've got one guy on my squad who's been here in the ag unit, probably 22 years. He's actually retiring at the end of this month, and there'll be a loss. But the world moves on. Again, we get phone calls. The guys get phone calls from these landowners that don't go through the 911 system because they're so familiar with them and they know who to talk to right away.
So this is just a question I had. I mean, do you, this might be a dumb question. Do you just drive regular patrol cars, or do you have like specialty vehicles out here because you do a lot of agricultural crimes?
No, we drive unmarked four-wheel drive trucks.
Oh, okay. All right. Just curious.
Yeah, the trucks are given to us by our fleet management. They all have off-road tires on them. They have winches and brush guards, so if we get stuck, we can pull ourselves out. So we're not damaging the trucks. They put the brush guards on them because we drive through the orange groves. We drive across this land. We get stuck all the time, but oh well, we have winches. We can pull each other out. We're also we also have, on another note, we also have ATVs for patrolling some of the areas that are inaccessible by trucks. We have 6 ATVs, single-person ATVs. We have 2 side-by-sides, which are capable of carrying, 6 regular people, but 4 cops with gun belts and all kinds of stuff on. And that's what we patrol the areas with.
I heard you have airboats too.
We do have airboats, John. Yes.
I haven't got on one yet. I've been on an airboat, not a Orange County Sheriff's Office one yet. I'm going to go on one.
Okay.
Why does the ag unit have an airboat? Or how many do you have?
We have 3 airboats.
Okay.
We patrol the 64 miles of St. John's River because it doesn't look like it should be 64 miles, but the St. John's River twists and turns, and we go out there routinely, patrol the St. John's River, looking for boating violations, hunting violations. We often come across people get stuck out there or have mechanical breakdowns. We help them out. And it's all work. All of it is work. What else? What else do we have? Drew, what else do we have?
I assume you know how to drive the airboat, Drew.
I know how to drive the airboat, yep.
Is that something you had to learn, or you kind of knew growing up in Florida?
No, I have never been on an airboat until I came here. And
really?
We had to go through the airboat class, and it's a 40-hour class, and now I'm one of the instructors for the airboat.
So I know we've talked a little bit about domestic animals and livestock, but I'm sure there's been some interesting or exotic animals that maybe you've dealt with over the years. Is there anything maybe that isn't a typical animal that you've dealt with during the course of your career?
Again, we don't come across emus. Every once in a while, we get something on an emu because people don't understand them.
So wait, people have emu farms?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I didn't know
llama.
That. Llamas, too.
Yeah.
So when you say you've dealt with them, does that mean they got loose, or they were underfed, or neither?
A lot of it, but neither. A lot of people don't really understand. And again, animals that will lay down or sit down for long periods of time, people just don't know what they are, or they're concerned for their well-being. And I tell people all the time, if you don't know, just call. We'll go out there and we'll look at it, make sure the animal's okay.
It's like cows. Cows like to get in the water.
Oh yeah.
So we get calls all the time from on the 417. Hey, there's a cow in the pond down there. I think he's going to drown. And you get down there, and it's like he's trying to cool off because it's 90-something degrees outside.
Yeah.
So.
All right. And you think, I mean, I'm sure a lot of that, once again, like you said, it has to do with people they don't grow up around these things, and they've never really probably had a connection with a farm or rural parts of the country, and they just say, oh my gosh, that cow's going to drown. But you're just like, no, it's just chilling.
Just chilling. So.
What about alligators? I mean, do you have your fair share of run-ins with alligators?
Yeah, we handle anything really under 4 feet, but most stuff goes to FWC.
Okay, so if there's an alligator in somewhere where it shouldn't be, you would call FWC and let them deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they'll send one of their trappers out. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You had mentioned it's not just animals you deal with. There's other things you deal with in the ag unit. Tell me about some of those other things.
Well, we deal a lot. We do and thankfully not a lot of it, we do searches for missing persons. And what we'll do is I'll get a phone call from a missing persons unit, and if they have somebody that's been missing for a little while, or not even a little while, depending on the circumstances, if they're missing and there's a wooded area nearby, they'll call us and we'll go out and we can take our ATVs out and go search that wooded area where deputies wouldn't be able to get in there with regular patrol cars or even walking sometimes, depending on the terrain of the area.
And the horses help out too, right?
The horses do, yes. But again, that depends on the terrain, because horses really can't go in a lot of mud because you don't want to hurt the horse. Where the machine will be okay. We just fix the machine if something happens to it. But we do a lot of that, but thankfully not a whole lot, but we do enough of it. We also work, we do trash dumping cases because they're environmental crimes. So we handle that.
That's like if somebody tosses a couch out on the side of the road.
Yes,
and they shouldn't be doing that.
Exactly. Because it's a felony. And, you know, sometimes they'll clear out their house, so they're working in a construction area. We get calls on that, and we'll figure out who it is. A lot of times we can educate them that that's not right. But we handle those types of cases too.
So, Drew, let's say you go in and you investigate animal cruelty, and you decide, okay, this horse is underfed, or we need to take this horse. What happens to the animal? Do you bring it somewhere? Does it get to hang out at another barn?
Yeah, we use two ranchers, one on the east side, one on the ranch side, and they're large animal contractors. So we call them, and they come pick up the animal. They take it back to their place. And if nobody claims the animal, then it's usually sold at an auction after 30 days.
Oh, real? Locally?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So is it possible for owners to get their animals back?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that happen often or not?
Most of the time they get them back, yes.
Okay.
But he usually picks them up normally with, say, a horse gets out and I can't locate the owner. Well, instead of the horse running around up and down the 429 or something, we impound the horse and take it back to his place, and we call it into our comm center or communication center, and we have an animal log there also, and it'd be like, you know, I picked up a bay horse, you know, from this area, and this is where it was taken.
So it's like a lost and found.
Kind of like a lost and found. So they can call in and say, hey, I think somebody stole my horse. They look at the log and say, no, we had one impounded over here, and this might be your horse.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, John, because our mounted unit has a horse that we recovered from Lake Nona. His name is PC, Pocket Change. He was impounded. The Orlando Police Department found him in a lot in Lake Nona. The owner called in and says, I don't know where this horse came from. We impounded the horse. It stayed around for 30 days, and nobody wanted to buy him at auction. So I had our mounted sergeant go out. He did an evaluation on him, and he's now one of our mounted unit horses. Yes.
All right. That's great. I mean, that's a great story. I had no idea. Huh. And so, but you said sometimes the owners do get them back. Do you follow up with them then? If somebody, let's say you were to take a horse or a cow, and then the owner says, all right, well, that one's mine. Not a lost one, but maybe one that has been underfed or...
Well, no, if it's a cruelty case, then it's going to go through the court first.
Oh, okay.
So when I get the disposition back from the court, then it'll be, okay, if he gets the horse back, then I start doing a follow-up on it.
Okay. All right. And but is it like a periodical, you know, it's 30 days, 90 days, 60 days, whatever, say, you know, I'm going to come back and make sure you're doing the right thing.
Correct, yes.
Okay. All right. So going over to domestic animals, cats, dogs, as you said, ferrets, I'm sure there's other range of animals there. I mean, is it the same thing if somebody is accused of mistreating their animal? You'll go into their home and say, okay, we have to take this away for now?
Well, normally Animal Services is doing that.
Okay, all right.
So what we'll do is, like, usually all that goes to Animal Services first, and then they'll send us a case packet, and then we'll follow up off the case packet.
Okay, all right.
So like Sergeant was saying, we'll do the final charges on it because they don't have the authority to file criminal charges.
Okay.
What Animal Services will do, John, is they have veterinarians on staff, and they will make sure the animal first thing gets the treatment or care that it needs, and they document everything. The veterinarian will write up a report as to what exactly they found to be wrong with the animal, and at that point we get the case because, like I said earlier, we need a doctor to say, hey, this is what's wrong. The dog isn't being fed properly. The dog is malnourished. The dog has had severe case of worms. Unfortunately, some of these dogs they get in, they can't save them.
Yeah.
And that's the unfortunate part, because they've been neglected for so long that they can only do so much. Doctors can only fix you so much before they just say this dog is not savable. We'll have to put it down.
What if it's like a hoarding case where, maybe they have 50 dogs in their house? Do you get called out for those?
We do. We got a case probably 8 months ago that somebody had 92 cats.
Wow.
And basically they'll go to animal services, and they actually do vet and checks on every single one of them. We get vet reports back on every single cat. And what they do is then you'll see animal services have a special on cats, because once those animals, legally, we can't do anything with the animal until the court decides we can have it, or we petition the court for custody. And sometimes we can get the owners to finally admit that they're in over their heads. Mm-hmm. And we actually have to get paperwork signed by them, turning them over to us or to animal services. Generally with the domestics, animal services will do that. They'll get the cats or dogs signed over to them, and then they can have a mad rush adoption sale on these animals. But unfortunately, not all of them can be saved and put up for adoption. But they always try to get those animals adopted out by families that are looking for dogs or cats or ferrets or rabbits or the other type of domestic animals they have.
Is it unique for a sheriff's office to have an ag unit? I assume a lot do, because there are a lot of rural parts of this country, but I'm sure there's more that are urban. Like I don't know. Does Miami have an ag unit like we would, or Miami-Dade?
I don't know if Miami does.
Okay, it's just pretty urban down there.
Yeah, it is pretty urban down there. Broward has one. Some of the bigger agencies do. We're involved in an organization that all the agricultural deputies and officers throughout the state get together, information gathering, intelligence gathering, stuff like that. So we have contacts to call people throughout the state of Florida if we're working something that might branch into their jurisdiction.
So I'll ask both of you this. I mean, I have a dog, I have a cat. I have 2 dogs, I should say. I feel like I'm leaving one out here. I mean, do you ever get out there and you see some of these cases and you just feel terrible for the animals?
No, absolutely, all the time. I mean, you work in one case somewhere else and you're looking over and you see a dog on the front porch of somebody's house in a cage, and it's, the temperature is 90 something degrees with the heat index of 115 degrees. The poor dog sitting there, so you walk over and check to make sure it's got water or shade or something. And yeah, I mean, it really gets to your heart. So,
I mean, is there anything you can do in that situation, or you just give advice and say, look, like, this is what you probably should do, or what would you do when something like that happens?
Well, I try to make contact right away. And if not, I try to come back and, meet with somebody that, why are you keeping this dog in the front porch in the direct sunlight? I mean, it's like when somebody goes to the store and they put their dog in the car and, they're parked in the direct sunlight and it's 125, 130 degrees inside that car. Well, your dog's probably going to get taken by animal services. So.
Yeah. And I sort of asked this earlier. I mean, are people generally surprised when you say that? They say, well, no, he's fine, or that dog's fine, don't worry about it. Or they say, oh, like, maybe I should do the right thing.
Well, you get a lot of that's fine sometimes, but when I come back 2 or 3 times, they sort of realize, well, maybe it's not fine. So,
So what? I'll ask you, Sergeant. I mean, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you wanting to stay in this unit?
It's fun. Every day is different. I like dealing with the people. I like dealing with the animals. I like speaking for the animals and helping them out. Because like I said earlier, the animals can't dial 911 and say, I need help. So I enjoy being that voice for the animals. Again, I get paid to go ride an ATV and patrol parklands. I get paid to ride on an airboat and patrol the St. Johns River. I love it. I really do. I've been in this job for 26 years, and I enjoy coming to work every day.
Are there times when you have to wrangle these animals yourselves?
All the time, yeah.
Yes. I mean, is it hard sometimes to get the horses to where you want them to go? And
yeah, sometimes. I mean, I had a case where I had a horse running down the 429, and to start off with, it's just me, and you're trying to battle the traffic with the horse and everything else, and until you can get help there, and and the horse is just galloping the full speed down the 429, and you're sitting there hoping, I hope the car don't hit this horse, and but it gets rough sometimes. Yes.
Are there any cases over the years that really stick out to either one of you that you say, I'm glad we were here to make a difference, because if it wasn't for the sheriff's office, this animal wouldn't be here. It would have suffered longer than it should have.
Probably every case we work. So.
Yeah, this is every case is different, and every time you help an animal or educate an owner, it's rewarding because you know that animal's going to get what it needs to live. Mm-hmm. That's basically that's the reason why I continue to do this job.
Well, fellas, thank you so much for coming to Behind the Star here and chatting about the animals. Like I said, I knew this existed out here, but I had no idea all the work that you did, and I'm sure a lot of people are probably surprised that we even have an ag unit because, if you live in certain parts of Orange County, you probably never see any farm animals, but you get a little farther out on the west side, on the east side, there's definitely a lot of rural spots. So thank you, gentlemen, for chatting with us, and thank you for all you do, and we'll see you guys next time on Behind the Star. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Behind the Star. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Also, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Until next time, I'm Jon Busdeker, and this is Behind the Star.